Call this meeting to order at 9:30. Thank you everyone for being here. We can start with the first item, or second item, I guess, roll call and determination of quorum.
Jamie Jackson, Matthew Lahane,
Here.
Paul Aniela,
Here.
Sam Amin,
Here.
Ryan Council, Mike Fincham, Melody Fowler,
Here.
Amy Garbarini, Kate Gibson, Stephen Haynes,
Here.
Christine Hefner, Daniel Conan, Nick Miner,
Here.
Stephen Miner, Nick Ruiz.
He just walked in. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Bob Schneider,
He's sent apologies. He will be online.
By the way.
yeah. Michelle Shropshire,
Here.
Rodney White,
Here.
Raquel Akbari. Here. Lee Anderson. Ahmed Benamar.
Here.
Chelsea Bates. Kimberly Cook. Mike Craig.
Here.
Adam Derrick. Here. Susan Gardner. Todd Horsley. Jacob Pasquick. Greg Pennington. Greg Reed. Joe Stainsby.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll move on to item number 3, approval of the June 5th, 2023 Technical Advisory Committee agenda.
So on the consent agenda, I request basically to pull kind of B, C, and D. I just want to kind of briefly talk about them.
Do I have a motion minus, or we're not on consent yet?
The motion is to amend the agenda.
So you want to move those to action and discussion?
Yes.
All right, motion, or do I have a motion to amend the agenda, or second, I guess, to amend the agenda? All right, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, we got item number 4, review the May 15th, 2023 Policy Committee meeting.
As usual, I keep this pretty quick. This is a legacy of the past where we just have a brief review of the policy agenda. I don't know if you can pull up the policy agenda. This was the May 15th meeting. You'll remember we had this meeting at the special VDOT venue. Thank VDOT for allowing us to use their auditorium. Much appreciated. The main reason for having the other venue was to allow for expanded public comment and public participation regarding the river crossing report was done. We had a full room. I don't know how many it seats. I think it's probably around 60 people. So we probably had about 50 people in the room, I guess. Went through that report, had lots and lots of comments from the public, both in favor of the river crossing and quite a few against, often against particular options that people didn't want option 2, people didn't want option 4, people, you know, so we heard from all of those. The also public hearings for the CMAC SDGB list, the UPWP, and the new TIP. As you know, those have been all out for public comment now and public hearings. We also had general public involvement, but we didn't get really much comment in that time period. So I think there was one comment about somebody spoke against having an outer connect. The consent agenda, just opening public comments for the TIP amendment requested by VDOT. Next. honor. We then had a CMAC SDGB presentation, and the resolution to adopt it. The CMAC SDGB list was adopted, including all the items. We had correspondence. There was a letter from Spotsylvania, which we presented, which is the resolution from Spotsylvania board opposing the river crossing, and that was the bulk of the meeting. So it was really a very focused meeting, mainly dealing with the river crossing report and then dealing with the CMAC STGB allocations for the forthcoming year. And I think that's all I need to say. If anybody has a question, otherwise we can move on. I don't like to belabor this too much.
Any questions? If not, we will move on to item number 5, public comments. Anybody in the room who would like to give public comment? Whatever you prefer, go for it.
Members of the FAMPO Technical Advisory Committee. I'm Alan Watkins. I live at 1281 Ron in Fredericksburg. I'm one of the many community members with questions and concerns regarding the potential new bridge, Rappahannock River, and additional roadways that would provide access to that bridge. As you're aware, bridge option number 2 in all of its iterations impacts the homeowners, businesses, and families located on Sanford Drive and England Run Lane. At the public hearing held in May, hundreds of thousands of dollars were approved to initiate the NEPA study investigating the viability of a new bridge with the intent to find an effective solution with minimal environmental impact and burden to communities. My first questions that hopefully can be answered are in regard to the status of that study. Has the consultant been hired yet? Has the study actually begun? If so, what are the current focus or focuses of the study? If so, what locations north and south of the river are being investigated? What is the timetable, particularly when meetings will be held with communities and neighborhoods that might be directly impacted? Does the study also include the impacts to the northern connecting routes to be built relating to Commerce Parkway, Plantation Drive, Enon, and Truslow Roads, and also Centaur Parkway and Mine Road? And finally, what is VDOT's involvement in the study? Regarding the recent June FAMPO River Crossing Research Report on page 6, it indicates that the study, however, was not designed to alleviate congestion on I-95, but to provide an alternative for local traffic to avoid the over-reliance on Interstate 95 to get around the region. I contend, however, that if not for the congestion on I-95, we would not be here in this room right now, nor discussing options to improve travel within the area. New capacity gained on the current I-95 South local access route between Route 17 and 3, and the northbound local access and additional HOV access that are currently under construction will provide benefit. It will certainly assist our area. Still, with a population anticipated to reach over 600,000 in our area before 2075, this new bridge will only provide limited relief, and as such is just a temporary fix, stopgap measure. I would hope that more effort and preparation be now put into a longer-term solution, such as they often discuss the bypass or connectors further west of the Fredericksburg area. I also expect the Technical Advisory Committee reconsider some of the statements maintained in the June report, such as on page 17, where it states options 2, 3, and 5 were developed by FAMPO staff based on limiting impacts on current existing housing and residential communities. The drawing of the roadways on map 5 on page 16 do not seem to take into consideration the homes on Greenbank for option number 5, nor the homes and the businesses that would be taken on Sanford Drive and English Run in this option 2 version.
If you want to wrap up.
30 seconds.
Okay, very quick. Regarding the statement that option 2 does not impact the easements north of the river, does not seem to take into account the June 5th of 2006 easement that lists that the bridge must be perpendicular within 30-degree angles perpendicular because of the 100-foot buffer required along the England Run waterway, or the proximity to the lake south of the river adjacent to the quarry, Why is option 2 still on the table when that stipulation makes the bridge impossible? I do not contend that a curved bridge as drawn can be considered perpendicular. Please take time to answer these questions. Thank you very much, Alan.
Thank you.
And I do have a copy of that if you would like.
Thank you for your public comments. Anyone else in the room or online who would like to give any public comments? All right, thank you. I will now close the public comment period, and we will move to item number 6, the consent agenda. Consent agenda minus item B, C, and D, which we have moved to the action and discussion items. So this is consent agenda approval for A and E. And do I have a second?
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. We'll now, I guess if we want to talk about item B, C, and D, Paul.
Yeah, I wanted to take them one at a time. I wanted to go to B first, and I guess like with B, can you go to page 28 of the EPWP, please? Maybe that wasn't good. There's the one that had the summary page, just kind of the funding. There was a table. That was 28.
The full funding tables at the very end. Yeah, each section's got a table, Paul, and then there's the tables at the end, which is the summary of everything.
So I guess what I wanted to talk about was basically, as Ian mentioned, basically Spotsylvania sent a resolution, a letter against the river crossing study. And with the bulk of the UPWP, we don't have an issue, but it does have $685,000 towards the river crossing study, which is roughly about 40% of the UPWP for FAMPA, which is quite a bit. We feel for basically a study which doesn't have regional support. And because of that, basically, we can't support the UPWP. So the bulk of it we're fine with, but I just want to explain basically why the county can't support it, and our board have directed staff to not support anything that promotes the study going forward. So didn't want to get into a big debate, but just wanted to explain the decision. That's it.
Do you want to take a vote first, or do you want to? Okay.
You-
We'll take a vote on item B to endorse resolution 2323 approving the fiscal year 2024 Unified Planning Work Program, the UPWP. Do I have a motion?
I motion to approve.
Do I have a second? I guess I'll second. Do I have any discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Motion carries. We'll jump to item number C, endorse resolution 2324, approve the FY 24-27 Transportation Improvement Program tip. Paul?
So on this item, we didn't have an issue. We just had a couple of questions. We just wanted some information on what the schedule was for basically the STIP to be adopted, and just with the rollover process, just with kind of recent projects coming out of SmartScope and other sources, what would be the timeline for those that actually go into the TIP and the STIP? This, I guess, is more of a state question.
So we've already approved the project list. You'll remember we had the conformity committee that we went through, and all of the projects were approved through the conformity process, including the current LRTP constraint list. And that has gone through our process, the state process, and the federal process, and it's already approved. So what we're doing here is just finalizing the document. But the projects themselves in the TIP have already been approved for 3 levels of government. So this is kind of us tidying up, but we needed to do it in this financial year So this is kind of the last opportunity to do that. I don't know if VDOT has any comment about that.
So just to clarify, the projects from Smart Scope down 5 are included in the tip, if they're in that window.
So John, I don't know the answer to that question. The point is that all of that was dealt with when we had the conformity analysis process and then the public comment period when we gave opportunity for anybody to comment on those. VDOT twice looked through the VDOT district twice looked through that list and brought 8, I think it was 8 amendments, which we included and processed for into the final conformity list. You'll remember there were no transit projects the first time around, which was an oversight that we had to fix it. Then there were 8 adjustments that VDOT district made. So there was quite a thorough process there. I can't recall what date we got confirmation of the recommended list of smart scale projects.
No, the group just be going.
They still haven't really
Yeah,
approved.
so I'm expecting a pretty significant round of
Yeah.
amendments in August.
So yeah, so the current smart scale run hasn't been voted on yet by the city, so we're not obliged yet to vote. So I'm assuming in August we'll get a request for here's all these that we need to put in. In fact, they've changed 2 of our projects, so that's even another question.
Well, it sounds good. My questions have been answered. I motion to approve.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Then we'll jump to item D, endorse resolution 2326, approving the new river crossing study report.
What we have done with this report is put it out for public comment, and we have made some adjustments to the report since the public comment period to take concerns raised during the process. So we made some slight tweaks. So this isn't identical to the first version of the report. It has some language changes and some swapped out 1 or 2 diagrams. But it's largely the same report that you've already seen.
So I guess the concern that we would have with this is just that the study was very kind of narrowly focused. Just in one area, I'll say basically with Spotsylvania, we're not against river crossings. We're interested in crossings further west. We're also interested in crossings further east. But I'll say because this study is so narrowly focused, just on the one area between Central Park and basically Silverbridge, Virginia border, we've been directed not to. That's it.
All right, do you have a motion?
You realize I'm not allowed to put any motions, so don't look at me because I can't endorse any document, put a motion or vote at all in this meeting.
All right, I'll motion for approval. Do I have a second? All right, we have a second. All right, all those in favor say, or any discussion, excuse me. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yeah.
Motion carries. We'll now move on to item number 7, action and discussion items. Item A, final VCR trail study memorandum and presentation, Mr. Paul Prideaux and Ms. Carey.
Okay. And yes. Stand right there. You okay? Yeah. All right. All right. Good morning, everybody. So I'm here to talk about a study that we've completed, working with staff and local officials to look at the CR trail, which exists, but there are several locations where there's desire for a grade separated opportunity to keep the trail physically, vertically separated from traffic, for example, underneath. So
That's what this is about. So the agenda for today is talk about the scope of the study and look over some of the recommendations and the work that we did. It'll be a kind of a high level presentation, but I invite anyone to interrupt me and we can we can slow down on certain areas if need be. I'm kind of assuming that most people in the room are tuned into this, so I won't spend a whole lot of time on why are we here and just kind of get to the details. But again, I welcome questions. So, okay, here's a map of the way the study was done is we were asked to look at 3 specific locations. 2 of them, the trail is there and it crosses a road at grade. So you literally walk or ride your bike or walk your bike across with traffic. That's here and here. This is a little bit washed out, this image, but this is Lafayette and Route 3. This is US 1. Here's Alum Spring Park and Idlewild Boulevard, stuff here. That's Route 1. And then I-95. The trail so the trail crosses here today. You can walk across there, but it's at grade. The trail does not get across I-95. That's a big interest for the region to have a way to for the trail to get across 95. But of course, you can't cross that grade on 95. So it would have to be either an aerial crossing or underground. So we'll talk about that. Another thing, this whole VCR acronym, you know, that's an old rail line. This is kind of a rails to trails system. So the Virginia Central Railway Trail. So that trail, that railway alignment 100+ years ago goes like this, right? So we're in each of these cases, the at grade trail follows that alignment and our separated concept stays in that line. Okay. Hopefully that's some context of where we are. I'll go over this quickly. This was the scope. As I said, this study's basically complete. So here's what we did. We spent time last year looking at different ideas of how we grade separate at these 3 locations. Could we go over? Could we go under? Could we go over here, under over here? So that's that kind of feasibility part, that task 1. And then the objective was to consider different things, have a preferred. We worked with this group, policy committee as well, and we picked preferred ideas at each locations. And then our job was to develop those ideas in a way that you might imagine for smart scale. You know, that's not final design ready to give to a contractor, but it's developed more so it could compete for funding theoretically in smart scale or other grant programs. So that's what this task 2 is to, and that's a lot of what I'll show today. And then just meetings and coordination. You know, I've presented to this group about this study before. I presented to the policy committee. We've had meetings with the city and the county, Spotsylvania and the city. And that's what that task 3 is. That's the scope of work. All right, so just cutting to the chase. I mentioned a minute ago that for each location, we considered, could we go over, could we go under, could we go over here, could we go over there? How do we grade how might we be able to grade separate these locations? So like that, just starting up at 95, where that rail bed that's obscured now, but where it crosses, there wasn't a 95, right? There was 95 back when that rail was there. That rail alignment is roughly where this triple box culvert is. That's a drainage culvert. So there's a picture of that. And this is a picture from somewhere else, but it's just the 2 things we thought about. Look at the heading: alternatives considered but not advanced. Okay, so the things we kicked around were, wow, that drainage culvert is barely carrying water under normal conditions. Is it possible to repurpose? And maybe you can walk through there. We did this. Several of us sitting in the room were out with our boots on, and you can go in there and show up on the other side of 95. It's, you know, it's so tempting. So, you know, the question was, could we, I don't know, all the drainage, use 2 of them and use the other one for pedestrian, blah, 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 blah. But we couldn't talk ourselves into it. Height, width, clearance, safety, drainage, floods, we eliminated. So that's the heading there. Okay, not advanced, okay? We couldn't talk ourselves into trying to repurpose and permit the use of a drainage box culvert to put people, bikes and things in it. So eliminated, okay? Another opportunity would be, we could go over 95 with a pedestrian trail bridge. That's just a picture off of up by Dallas Airport, but it was possible. There wasn't anything not feasible about that, but we eliminated that because the grade down below is well below, the interstate's on fill in that area. So the earth is really low compared to the interstate. When you walk up, you're looking up at the interstate and you're down at the trail level, where the trail would be. So you'd have to do something first, get up, and then go over and then go down. And so it just, we decided not to pursue the overhead or aerial crossing idea at the interstate location. So, second, I'll show pictures. What we, spoiler, we decided constructing, excavating, boring a new tunnel, not there, but here. A new tunnel under the interstate is the proposal that we built up. So we thought about where would it go, how much excavation, how big would the tunnels be, and how would it work. That's what we developed, okay? So that has costs associated with it, but that is the idea that was advanced, and we developed those sketches and cost estimates. Okay, that's a lot, but 95 was a complicated process.
There's one question.
Sorry to interrupt. This is actually a question for Pepper. Is it possible to turn off the lights in front to see the presentation better?
Yeah.
No, it's this one.
Great, thanks.
It's a good idea. Okay, all right, let's reset. Let's think about US route line. Remember what I was mentioning? This is Allen's Park.
Can we ask questions on the first one?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Does the county, in favor of this? Are you gonna connect to it? Or what's the status of the county bringing their trail into this spot?
So the county does want to connect to it, but I guess, the purpose of the study was how that connection is done.
Okay.
Bridge or tunnel or something else.
Second question, this is not important, but did they check the capacity of the culvert and maybe they can use one culvert out of these three?
So we didn't do hydraulic drainage calculations, but the biggest challenge with the culvert was the height and width. I could probably stand in that culvert and touch the top, and my feet are a little bit wet if it's not a high flow day. And then the width, I can't touch both sides, one of the boxes. But so there are standards about trails in Virginia about clearance, and if you have people crossing each other in two directions, and how much space do you need so you don't. So we have a long list, but there were a lot of. It could not meet specs, even if water was not a problem.
Look at the culvert. Is the trail on this side or that side?
Left.
Did somebody say something?
Left.
Left. That's why they want to go to the other side. Okay,
And there's no trail there now.
I understand.
So, it's 100 years of erosion, and the rail line is, I don't even know if the ballast is still there, the riprap or whatever was it. So, but not too far away behind this photographer, it's more defined. And then eventually it is the real trail that is just dead end because of the interstate.
And Smartscale is approving the trail to be developed right up at Box Culvert.
That's right. Okay, all right, Route 1, US 1. Okay, so hopefully we all know where we are here. It's in the city. The trail is here. This is the old rail line, right? And it's beautiful. It's nice serpentine, large curves to come through here. And you cross at grade. Push a button, it stops traffic on US 1. these cross with, cross hatching, right? So the question is, how can we make that grade separated? So that, the two things we considered here, this is eliminated, right? Not advanced. One thing we considered here was that we did not advance. Right here is a Hazel Run. So there's a bridge. The US 1 goes over Hazel Run, down at Hazel Run Creek. Theoretically, we could close that, right? Close it and build something parallel, go under US 1. Again, you're water, but you'd want to split up so it wouldn't get wet, and come back and then access this, trail, this connection from Idlewild to Kings Mill. But we didn't advance that, not advanced, because we felt like it's so out of the way.
So,
And it felt like people would just maybe disobey, just go across there. And it wouldn't be used as desired. So, in cost, and anytime you're dealing with water, and you've got to worry a little bit about storm activity. So the thing we did advance, which I'll show in a second, is a bridge. Pedestrian bridge over US 1. So it would start, here, start going up, over, down. Okay, so that's what I'll show today. Last one is, this is Lafayette in Route 3. Okay, this crossing exists now. You can walk across right there now. And so the question is, how can we grade separate that? So we looked at 3 things here. One that was not advanced is to go way over here with the trail. Over here and go kind of like this idea. Go under Route 3 again, it's Hazel Run Bridge, just coincidence. Under that bridge that allows Hazel Run to run under Route 3. But it's just so out of the way, and it doesn't looks benign on the camera here, on the image here, but this is a really steep grade to try to, once you come out in daylight, and then by the time you get up here, I forget how many feet difference it is, but it's quite a climb. So anyway, we did not advance that because of the circuitous. So we looked at 2 crossings, aerial bridge crossings here, like one here. We ended up keeping both of them kind of as an offering to the region, and we have a favorite. Well, I'll say that. But we went ahead and drew them both up. A crossing, a big separated crossing here, a bridge over, and I think that one's like. So I'll show those following slide. Okay. Any question about things not advanced? Yes.
Yeah, Paul, just a question on the US Route 1 crossing. I know when we went out there kind of with the city,
Yeah.
There was kind of mention of maybe possibility of like an R cut.
Oh, yeah.
And basically an improved kind of bike ped connection there. Like, was that not considered, or what happened with that?
The reason that was a great kind of moment in the study is I thought about, this is a signal here, okay? US 1 traffic stops, and it's Kings Mill Drive or Kings Mill Court is right here. I was all worried about, if we have a bridge over, where does the signal go, the signal heads, or could we eliminate the signal and make it like an innovative intersection and then all of a sudden, Peter, like, hey, that signal's only there for the trail. You could get rid of it. It doesn't warrant a signal just due to that limited traffic here. So all of a sudden that issue went away. So ARCAD is probably not. Now, if there's pushback from this community about it's hard to get out, people are going 70 miles per hour downhill, there may be some kind of alternative intersection may be possible there, but it's not needed because of the trail. If the trail is grade separated. Is that answered?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, technically, if you look up, traffic signal warrants, or you can look up in a book and you look at the volume here and the volume there, the primary and the secondary, and you say it does not warrant a signal. That's the case here based on traffic. But that doesn't mean that some engineering might be valuable to help these people get in and out, even though technically it doesn't warrant a signal. Anything else before I move on? Okay, so the things we did advance, and then to kind of draw them up. All right, wait, what did I do wrong?
Might have just been.
I might have tried have backwards, try the mouse, or
Just arrow key.
okay. I could do this.
There you go.
Oh no, the computer's frozen. What's happening? Page down. Let's take a look.
I'll take a look.
Too long over the first slide.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Okay, all right. So I mentioned that once we had an idea, we wanted to draw it up. This is not final design plan sheets, but it is more than planning level sketches. So remember the box culvert, the triple box culvert? That's roughly here. This is I-95. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to the, let's tease it up a little bit. I'll come back to that slide. This is the rail bed and the proposed trail construction at grade coming along here. Then as we approach that box culvert area and a new tunnel, we would have to start, working on the grade to get it just right. And then we'd head over to, I did that wrong. Then we'd head over to a new tunnel location. There's no tunnel here now. This is not over, this is under the interstate, excavating, reinforcing, tunneling, right? So this is roughly the location that we would suggest, or this is what planning level, but we believe makes sense. It works best for the grade over here. So you're kind of in a convenient location and it kind of works over here. This goes into Spotsylvania County. It's the city-county line right here. So that's the proposal, is to construct a tunnel. And I-95 would not be closed for this. And it would allow two directional traffic, a 10-foot wide trail, plus that shy space I talked about, where you have to have a certain amount of meet specs, a certain amount of clearance, left to right, and height as well. So those are the type of sketches, and there's a cost estimate I'll show later, that type of things that would get included with an application for grant funding. Things like this is the type of information that an applicant would want to, not an applicant, a funder would. Okay, so we looked at that one already. We're going to switch to US. Yes, Paul, I can
I
say.
have a question on the tunnel. So just a question like, would there be any cost savings if it was more perpendicular to 95?
It's funny. It's a great question. Certainly, geometry 101, right? A perpendicular crossing would be a shorter tunnel. True. But then you'd have, let's say you cross like this, right? You can't cross like this because of that box culvert. So it'd have to be like this to be perpendicular. So you save money on the tunnel, check, that's good. But then you're over here. And what happens over here, and that's too bad I didn't have an image that's a little bit zoomed out. There are houses over here. This is someone's backyard. And all of a sudden you're in a less favorable grade over here. So you come out in daylight and then you're doing a lot more earthwork and you're into people's backyards and private property and to get back to the alignment. So that was the rationale for, chicken or egg, kind of going with a longer tunnel to have a better, more favorable daylighting situation.
Is this designed to be completely dry, 365 days of the year, so there would not be any time where the
That's right.
creek would come up
That's
onto
right.
the trail?
Yeah, we assumed the floor would be above the.
Okay.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Other things before we go to US1. Yes.
I want, and this is probably for the Tampo TAC Oh, but all of these, let's say we were to build this, these come with utility easements, right?
If there are utilities, then there would be, is that what you say?
No, I'm saying if you build it, so the county owns the VCR trail, or Spotsylvania owns the VCR trail on their side, the city on their side. Is there already a utility easement in that for these trails, or is it just?
You mean access?
Like conduits?
Yeah, conduits, gas, broadband, these things.
Wow.
So currently, the county does not own that land, the west of I-95. It's currently part of the farm.
Okay.
And there is a sewer line, the county will know more about this, but there's a sewer line that runs parallel to the Hazel Run River. I'm not sure that that's an actual easement though.
Well, if it's on there, it's
Yeah,
an
that's
easement.
an easy.
Okay.
I'm curious, were you thinking, because you might be thinking,
I'm thinking,
like the opportunity to
yeah, I have an economic development background, so I'm looking at this and I'm like, well, if you're gonna start going under 95 and going in the back of these neighborhoods, like where is it leading to? Maybe you can connect water, sewer, broadband,
There are limitations that
gas.
putting utilities in our limited access right of way. Those decisions are made by the chief engineer of VDOT. And I can tell you that we would not really want a gas line. There are instances where there are utility crossings under the interstate, but we look at those in very specific instances. So it's not just sure, let's do this because we're. And this would also be a break in the limited access, so that would have to be approved by VDOT and the FHWA to put anything across, above, below, you can do like an aerial crossing, like a bridge above the interstate, so. It also other levels of approval to do this, so I'm not just looking at it as putting one thing there, so everything else gets to tag along.
Yeah, well, you're putting people down there, so if you're gonna put people down there, broadband shouldn't be that big of a list.
I understand, but there's a process.
Understood. So we're gonna spend all this money, I'm just saying, take that into consideration if you're gonna build a tunnel underneath. So.
Thank you for that.
Well, Paul's hoping very strongly we can convince VDOT and the CTB to change their mind and actually give us those extra 2 lanes while we're doing the tunnel. So, quite a few things we're trying to stack up in one place. Yeah.
That's a small ass.
All right.
Tunnel and. So, can I ask another question? I can't remember from some of the other longer range transit, vision concepts. Was there any longer term plan for high capacity transit out this part of the county or city? The density wasn't, Okay, it was along Route 3, at least for the density for transit.
Okay,
Purpose of my question is just if you're thinking about these kinds of improvements, it's a pretty major undertaking to jack and bore underneath 95. Does it make sense to think even a little bit bigger, potentially add another 2 bays for something else, adjacent to that in the future? Just throwing that out there. And because it'd already be a pretty big undertaking to jack one.
I thought it was going to be hard to convince people to even dig this tunnel, but now let's make 3 tunnels and put gas and God.
But you can only do it once
Yeah.
in 75 years, so, make it count, right?
In the essence of time.
Yeah,
wanna
just
move on
a
to
comment.
Next one, Route 1.
very good.
Throw them ideas out there.
Yeah.
Do this, I'll keep doing this kind of east to west. We've moved on to US 1, okay? Kings. Yes, and south of Idlewild. So here is actually the crossing, but let me start. Okay, so again, this trail's there now. You can actually see it. It's paved, pretty, it's awesome. Now, but it would have to start, if this is going to be an aerial crossing over US 1, it has to start going up. Right now, it's at grade. It's a beautiful trail, but it has to get over, so it can't do that immediately, so it starts going up, would start going up back here. And we also would want to try to control it'd be an earthen fill. So we have to control those slopes so they don't encroach upon private property if possible. So we talked about maybe some retaining walls to try to, so it starts going up with just slopes. And then eventually it starts to get clipped with retaining walls is the idea. So we can continue to add height. Oh, yeah.
Do you have a sense for the difference in the grade there?
You know, of course, it's 0 difference. And then, you know, it's like 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet. You know, I don't remember it's like, you know, 18 or something.
Okay.
Once you get to the crossing,
Sure.
it's like that. You know, you have a certain amount of clearance, and someone in the room, maybe Michelle will be better at this, how much height you need for tractor trailer to go underneath, and then you got the beam depth of the bridge and the deck of the bridge, you know, so it all kind of adds up. So
16.5 foot clearance to the bottom of your beam.
and then you have a beam, and then you have a deck.
So this model is based on those numbers, not?
Yes.
Did you look at the existing grade there too, or?
We did.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So we are looking at a connection at the end of Springwood. This is one of my questions, but and that may.
You'll see on the other side of the US 1 that the length you need is less because the grade is in your favor.
Yeah, good point. So it's not a difficult thing on this side, but it takes a little bit longer to develop the grade separation height, because there are standards for that too. You don't get someone on a bike or pushing a stroller a really steep grade, so there are standards there too for trails. Keep going the wrong way. So then up, right? And then it switches to a bridge here. And then it starts going back down. Okay, and we'll talk about that in a second. The fact that it gets down easier, quicker because the grades, you're not chasing the grade, it's coming at you, if that makes sense. But just a thing or two I'll mention here is the things we thought about with the bridge crossing. Oh, the trail is under there. This is casting a shadow on the at grade trail. It's under there right now. So this is the same exact alignment. But the things we thought about, you know, there'd be an abutment here. You hold back the earth and the bridge takes off, right? Abutment. We set this abutment back so this traffic can have a side triangle, because they're going to have to know when they can go. If they no longer have a signal, they're going to have to be able to sit at this stop bar and look over here and say, I've got a gap, I can go. So that's why we didn't build that there.
So Paul,
Yeah.
one other question. Is you were envisioning that to be a full crossover intersection, unsignalized full crossover intersection in this diagram?
Yes.
Okay.
T.
Okay.
Yeah. So some other things to notice here, you know, again, the trail is under there right now. So you see some dotted lines here. There are other planned or existing trails along US 1. So we want to have the ability to get back to them. If a person's coming this way, they don't want to keep going. This is their end, or they want to go to that house or something. They would need a way, and you'll see it on the next image, a way to get back to here. So now, I want to do that again. This is the tail end. Remember how you come off the bridge, you start going back down. Do it again. And then there's that wedge again, where you switch from retaining wall to fill slope, and it's petering out to nothing. And you're back to the existing trail. So that is what that is. Up, over, down. Right? This is that connection back, switch back, which we haven't really engineered that. It's just kind of a reminder to the applicant that someone would have to, if you want the connection, that would need to be considered somehow. So, any questions about that one?
Hassan?
Yes.
On the east side of Route 1,
Yes.
when you start raising up
Yes.
grade, does that affect the existing park?
Oh, great question. Park is here. So if we do retaining walls, we would keep the fill 1-to-1, 2-to-1, whatever, you know, we'd keep the fill from spilling over. Theoretically, this would just keep going wider and I don't know, it might be something like this. Right? So we're trying to avoid that from happening, but with some, of course, retaining walls cost money. So these could be built further out, and that would start later. The retaining walls may not start till here. You know, so those are things that at the time of construction could be contemplated to cut some cost.
One more question, then we'll move on to Route 3.
So I just had a question, like on that low area, like on the southwest side of the crossing, it wasn't on this graphic, it was on the other ones, but
Okay.
that poses any challenge with the switch back to kind of connect this project?
Here, this connection back.
Yeah, I think maybe that purple area is the low area, but
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if that's like a dry BMP or what that is, but the question is, does that pose any challenges just trying to connect back like to Route 1, just the Smart Split project?
We didn't drill down on that a lot, so that would need to be, that's kind of just a reminder to the future developers, if they decide to do that connection, something would need to be contemplated there. So I don't know right off. Certainly, there might need to be some,
Oh,
pre-engineering of if this is that a stormwater management bond? I'm not. So, don't have a solid answer for that.
Just one follow-up. What is the status of this report? Is this just our first time seeing it and we're gonna open a comment period, or is this it? Is this all? Okay.
On this.
Great. Let me have one comment. I think Paul's observation is great. That is a really low area. Kings Mill Court, if you would, Paul, that might be public right of way. So just flip the dash blue onto the other side. You get out of, maybe it's all in right of way anyway, but there's a lot of sensitive areas on that side of the trail that you may not have on the other side, especially if Kings Mill Court is a public right of way now.
Say where the sensitive areas are. Say it again.
if you see the yellow line north and south of the trail,
Mhm.
I'm assuming that those are the right of way lines.
Right.
So you've still got some space after you take the space for the full.
So if you're looking for a connection, it maybe makes sense on the northern side rather than the southern side where you're getting into these sensitive areas. That Paul's right. That's a pretty extreme drop there.
Maybe go this way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's concept anyway.
Yeah,
Might make sense.
Sure.
we can move on to Route 3 and then wrap this up.
All right.
So I think the point is, this is a draft report. If people would please give comments that we can collate into one and send to Paul.
I have one question. VDOT design staff had requested that we could take a look at your estimates and all. What's the status of that?
Are built up in PCES format, and they're available. They're in this report as a draft. So they're available.
Okay. Yes. Good. Thank you.
Okay, now Lafayette, Route 3, okay? Again, the trail is there now. So we want to grade separate. This particular option, we call it option A, would take the trail and abandon this and just go over here and climb up and go over. So I'll go to that slide. So everybody kind of see where we are. Okay. So then that thing I just pointed to would go up, 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 and cross right here. This is that lot that's being developed. I don't know what the status is today with that. I've heard different things. You know that it's in this corner, this quadrant. But the idea is this is the property line of that undeveloped land. And we would theoretically have an easement right at the edge to get back down to Alum Spring. This is actually our preferred of the two options. I'm going to show one more here, but we like this one a little better. It gets away, the intersection's down here, Lafayette and Route 3 is right here. And this gets away from that, and we think this makes sense. So anyway, we like this one, but we left them both in for contemplation. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm gonna have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
On the west side, I guess it's the south of Route 3, you're showing a cut or a fill there. Is it a cut or a fill, the orange area?
Yeah.
That is a fill?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, not as bad as it could be because Route 3 is a little lower than the land right here. So you don't have to, that's another reason why we like it here, is because you don't have to do as much grade change. That's one, that's option A. Here is, I did that again. Okay, this is the other one. Here's an existing trail, a shorter deviation and crossing closer to the intersection. But you have to cross a lot more. The bridge is longer and you've got this high-speed right turn lane. And so we just felt like it was a lot happening right here and this intersection may need to be widened or someday in the future. We just thought it'd be good to get away, just to get a little bit away, a little bit of distance from the intersection. But we included the information here, including the cost estimate. So it's option B. So in a year or whatever, city, whatever, can decide to run with one of these or some hybrid if they want to. So that's the next slide, final slide of images is the next piece of this.
Trying to get that bridge high enough over the road and that distance and out of the road.
So we believe that to be true. It would start back here. Yeah, so approximate start end of approach grade. So it would have to start going up right here. And keep going up. Talk about the profile and yeah, go ahead, Paul. Yeah.
Paul, Bessie, with both of these options, it's possible to work this going on to National Park Service.
Both these options, yeah, I know NPS has some, I think it's a deer.
Yeah, so both bridge options are kind of avoiding
Yes,
the National Park Service.
they are. Great. The one that we there's NPS owns, and I forget which parcel, maybe that one. But yes, both would. The other one, not. I think the other one might have had encroachment on NPS land. The one that we eliminated.
Okay.
Okay. Oops. This is how it comes back down. And so anyway, this is option B.
The biggest problem for me at that intersection is P1. On this slide, you can see the problem. Do you see the slip lane and the current at-grade crossing? It's not signalized. That particular crossing of the slipway is not signalized. You have to watch for traffic when you cycle across there. So that's why for me, this is not the only consideration, but me, I've cycled this, and the biggest problem is that part of it there. If somebody comes really fast around there in their Porsche or something, they may not stop in time and hit the person on the bicycle.
So now, just to be clear, we would have crossed that right turn at grade separated. So that would.
For both options.
Yes.
Takes that problem away.
Takes that problem away. All right, I'm gonna figure the remote out by the time I'm done. So, these are just a quick answer to what's the total cost and $2023 for those four ideas. Big one, US one, and these two. What else?
Construction dollars, it looks like they're just construction dollars in your estimate, not total.
They are construction dollars.
Okay, uninflated.
Yes. And that's
Take very small contingency, so like.
10% or something.
At PD. That's an expectation.
In 2023 dollars. So by the time we build this 7 years from now or
Right.
whatever, it's not going to cost that amount anymore.
You'll have to add engineering, you'll have to add right away, you'll have to add 40% inflation.
It's not,
No.
Wait, is there right?
it's not much. I don't know if we have any.
Let's just accept.
All right, well, thank you for the presentation. If everyone could please direct any comments they have to Paul, I guess through Ian.
If you can email myself and Carrie, Carrie's our in-house project manager. So we'll put all your comments together in one batch so that we don't send all 500 emails. We'll send in one batch.
All right, well, we can jump to item B, Transportation Alternatives Program app.
Well, sure. My comment, so the city and the counties have that ability.
This is only one slide.
This is very brief, folks. I just wanted to call your attention to some dates that you need to be aware of. You all know the portal already opened on your Transportation Alternatives Program. Your pre-applications first are due on the 30th, but what I'd like you to know is your project summaries are due to us July 1st. If you would like us to present your projects to the TAC, the PC, and GWRC board, we'll be doing that in August and September so that you can get the endorsements you need from GWRC policy committee. All right, we'll of course have your letters ready for the October deadline, as long as we get your summaries by July 1st. So, yes,
Or if spontaneous, would a Jacobson use sufficient?
I believe so. I will double check you are. I will let you know if I have any questions on that. So does anybody foresee any problems with getting those to us? July.
Please do make notes of these dates, folks, because we're going to be coming at you with a lot of dates over the next 3 months. We've got the next round of smart scale starting, this starting. We may have to do another CMAC adjustment in August because we're hoping that we're going to get some money back. Hopefully Susan will excuse me for not using the right language, but we're hoping to get some money back from smart scale. So there are lots of dates coming at you. So please do make note of these dates.
All right.
One quick question, July 1st, I think is a Saturday, like, is that what?
July 1st is just beginning of July.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm not a stickler for these things. No, I want a Saturday. You're not working on Saturday? You know what I mean, first part of July, so I have time to take care of all
That sounds good.
that. All
All
right,
right.
thanks, folks.
Thank you.
That's it for that.
Thank you, Carrie. And you are back up for the item number C, Smart Scale Round 5 report.
A lot to talk about with smart scales, so my part's gonna be pretty quick. I just wanted to call attention to part of this. So this is just the round 5 consensus scenario. There were a couple of changes made. Go ahead, next slide, Connor.
Some surprising changes.
Yeah, some surprising changes, some more than others. These first few slides are in your pack. You can take care of them at your leisure, but I'm going to let you go forward a few more, Connor. What we want to talk about, keep going, is this. Two of our previously funded, recommended for funding projects were unfunded. The express commuter transit service to Dahlgren in King George was submitted by Fred, and that was unfunded because they said there was no service on the Dahlgren base for the commuters to their final destination. And the Route 610 widening, Garrisonville Road and multimodal improvements was also unfunded because there was concern over the inflationary impacts of the budget. Next slide. So what they decided to fund instead in King George was the US 301 Port Conway Salem Church roadway improvements. So would you like to tell us anything about that project?
Thank you. But when we submitted it, thank you. That's all I can say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, Leland Road with multimodal improvements. Matthew, is there anything you can tell us about that project?
It is the one section of Leland Road that is 2 lanes, whereas the sections on both sides are 3 lanes. So we're just improving that section to be a twin left turn lane, 2-way left turn lane, with a sidewalk and shared use path improvements.
All right.
And bike lanes, I think.
It's a bike lane?
There's a bike lane as well. Sorry.
Okay.
Maybe.
Does it connect to any other bike lanes you have over there?
Yes, the one set of bike lanes in Stafford County that's on even
That
end of it.
little.
So I'm sorry. So this is gonna be switched out for the Fred, the dog. So what you're saying, you're just doing a switch. It doesn't mean that it's funded.
It's
It will be funded when they vote in June,
Who's voting?
the CTV.
CTV.
So the CTV messed with the list. The
Okay.
state proposed, here are the projects that we think you should fund. Gave the CTV time to think about it, discuss with the districts. So our CTV member, for example, met with our district and everybody did that across the state. And then they came together and recommended 2 changes. The CTV recommended changes to the state recommended list. And these are the CTV's recommended changes. So they're swapping.
So
funding.
CTV made that change.
CTV
Fred
made
said
this.
no to their application that was funded, right?
No?
No, so the preliminary list was a staff recommended, CTV staff recommended funding list. And
Okay.
then the entire CTB got together and made these changes.
So the CTV made that change. They didn't consult with anybody at the county?
Right.
Look at them throwing around their weight.
They were supposed to
Alright.
send you a letter, did they not send you a
I
letter?
don't know if I sent. Maybe it went to the county
They
administrator.
did send a letter to Stafford, so they should have sent you a letter. Anyway, so these are the proposed changes that the CTB board has proposed. And they have notified the applicants, I'm told.
They adopted a consensus scenario, which is this scenario at the last CTB meeting in
Got it.
May. And then at the June CTB meeting, they will adopt the 6-year improvement
That'll
program,
be the
which
final.
should include these projects.
I mean, I'm good with it. I just, wasn't aware.
So we lost like $40 million and gained
40 million, $30 million.
12, well, the two projects together is 36
Oh, for our
plus.
Yep.
So our region lost $39 million or something and gained, what's 9.1 plus 3.4, it's like 12.5, I
Yep.
think, if my math is
12.5.
good. So we lost 38 or 9 and gained 4.5. So it's a net dollar loss to our region, but of course it funded projects in King and Queen County and projects in Richmond County as well. Still doesn't add up to 38 or 39 million, you know, that's.
Pittsburgh district did not lose funding. For me.
I believe there's,
Scenario.
yeah, I believe there's an additional 5 or 10 million that was placed in the, to be left for inflation impacts or anything.
Correct.
But that was it.
Other projects funded around the district. They're just not in the region. They're in some of the other counties that are in the Fredericksburg
Well,
district.
there's 3 of them there on the screen.
There are 3, there's more on the next.
King and Queen.
And there's a question.
Yeah, and then the question.
Just real quick, what is the GP stand for?
That's a district grant program. There's 2 pots of funding. So that's basically all I wanted to cover in my presentation. We have several other important changes going on with Smart Scale that we are all concerned about that Mr. Allis will talk about next.
All right, so we can move on to C1, Smart Scale Process Review Update in that presentation.
So thank you, Paul, for catching this one. I didn't catch it on the CTV agenda, but last month they had the results of the survey that we all participated in after the Smart Scale recommended list came out. There was a call for comments on the process this round and things that people wanted to see changed or improved. So we had that, which included our request actually to have additional slots for medium-sized regions. And it had concerns, I think, from other regions about too many bike and ped projects being funded this round, and they thought it was overkill, and a bunch of other comments, right? So we had all of those. And then this item was on the last agenda, which proposed different changes to the next round of Smart Scale. And Connor, if you can scroll down, there are some which concern us quite a lot. You can see there, sorry, just go back up there.
This is just,
Sorry, I'm just, never mind, carry on.
The table with the differences is almost at the very end.
Yeah, carry on.
Slide
Like-
C7.
Go to slide 27.
can I, go ahead, hold on, go up like 3 slides. Keep going up. This slide right here. So just an FYI, to what Ian's also getting at, this slide, as well as the slide before it, discusses the topics that they will be talking about for potential Smart Scale changes. And this is the schedule of when they will be talking about those topics. So what Ian is about to talk about is what they discussed in May, the program, and some of the basics. But they will have a lot more potential changes and discussions over the next few months, which is talked about in this slide.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Carry on down. The thing that worries us, go down there, just stop there. They are concerned about the ratio of applications to successful applications, right? I don't like this logic one single bit. This is a very dangerous path to go down, because what they're saying is it's really important to us that we don't have so many applications come in and we only fund a small percentage of those. Sounds logical, sounds reasonable. There's wasted man hours if we spend our time working on projects which don't. I understand that. It's logical. We wouldn't want to waste man hours on projects that don't go anywhere. There's a big danger hidden in that. And the big danger is this. You have to know for dead certain beforehand which of your projects are going to score well. Because otherwise, we're going to get screwed if we get it wrong. So it's hard enough now to guess which projects are going to be successful. This is going to make it even harder, because if they approve this thing, they're going to give us not the more slots which we asked for, but actually less slots, which means that you better be damn sure that the 2 or whatever projects we're still allowed to submit are the ones that are absolutely going to get funded. Imagine if we only submit 2 and both of them score badly. We're then screwed. That's the hidden danger here. So instead of doing what we asked, they're going the other way. No, we're wasting too many man hours developing so many applications. You see those percentages, 37% and 50% and all that kind of thing? Those percentages are meant to make the case that we're wasting man hours on projects that don't get funded. But the flip side of that is, if we reduce the amount of man hours and therefore reduce the amount of projects, it's going to reduce the amount of slots you have, which means you've got to make really, like, imagine if we picked Lafayette as one of our 2 projects. We would have failed to get funding, and we would have wasted a slot we could have put one of the other projects on that did get successfully funded. That's what worries me about this. Okay, next slide. So this is now, the process that they're following now to improve the quality. Next slide. Okay, now they start getting into the calculations, and they're giving these 2 options, option 1 and option 2. So what we have now is, if you have less than 200,000 people, or an NPO that has less than 500,000, you get 5 pre-applications and 4 full applications. And if you're bigger, you get 12 or 10. And so our submission was, we think there should be a category in between 1 and 2, like a 1A, which says that if you've got a medium-sized region, you get, more than 5 and 4, you get maybe 6 or 7 and 5 or something, or 6 or whatever. Instead, what they're proposing are these 2 options down below, which means that we go down to 4 and 3, or even worse, 3 and 2. Now imagine if we only get to submit 3 pre-applications and only 2 final applications, and one of the 2 we pick is Lafayette Boulevard that just happened in this round. You're then likely to only get 1 smart scale project approved every 2 years. 1 every 2 years. Think about the danger of that. Option 2 is really, really terrible for us. Option 1 I don't like either. I'd rather keep it the same as now, but we in fact asked for more slots. We're now going to get less slots. This is not a good idea.
Can I ask a question? Would the CTB allow it to happen that no applications get funding from an entire region? I mean, I thought everything has to compete against itself, but there is some regional balance that gets applied when the CTB makes their final decision.
Very good question, and it's allied to another question. What happens in that dark room full of smoke and cigars when they go and decide what the recommended allocation is? Because all we know is the criteria and the categories. We don't know, for example, why did Lafayette Boulevard score so low? Well, they'll give us an answer, which is like a sentence, right? But you don't know every detail of every little score. You don't know, you know, it's an objective process, but the calculations are performed away from us where we can't see. So the question you're asking, I don't know. There is a certain dollar split, right? So they split the dollars into the regions, and then there's a regional pot, and they fund projects out of the regional pot. So I don't think any region would be disadvantaged, but certainly that's the whole region, including the district. How big is our region? It includes the northern neck.
Yeah.
So they may be getting all of their R cuts funded and all of that, and we don't get Lafayette Boulevard funded. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because we have to start to now guess which projects are going to be more successful, and that's already quite hard.
So depending on if an application is submitted by a locality or if it is submitted by a transit agency, an MP or a PDC, that determines what funding pots the project is eligible. Two funding pots, high priority projects or programs, and DGP. DGP is for the Fredericksburg district, which is Ian talked about as the Northern Neck, Fredericksburg, Middle Neck, Middle Peninsula. Yes. And we compete under DGP for projects that are eligible for DGP. And then there's HPP, which is statewide, and we compete under that. DGP had 130 million for the district last round, I think, somewhere around that. And HPP had 500, 600 million for the state last round.
Comment on this is I think that there were many poor quality applications throughout the state, but our district hadn't really. That was a comment that I heard, that this wasn't, we're not the bad guy. Throughout our entire Fredericksburg district, we had really good applications. So maybe statewide, they're trying to weed out people's crayon applications that they turned in.
Can you go to the next slide, please? I want to make a point. So basically, like on this slide, I was surprised to see this implied average of all the applications. I had, I guess, a success rate of 39%. It actually doesn't seem that low to me.
Yeah.
The federal kind of programs, which are very competitive nationwide, maybe might be saying 2%.
Yeah.
And 39% seems actually pretty good.
Right.
And I'll say, and as Kerry mentioned, for the Panfield GWC area, I think we did better than that. We might have been around 50% or maybe even a little better than that. A couple other points. So as Matthew said, the funding was up this last round of Smart Scale. And it looks like the bipartisan transportation bill that the feds passed, and there's more money. And then the state is doing all these pipeline studies all over the place, generating lots of worthy projects. It just seems like a strange time to be constricting the number of applications, and just for the Panfield region to precision, we have a lot of needs. I mean, we really kind of more like kind of a big city area with like our corridor kind of on 95. And I completely agree with what Ian said. If we're restricted to 2 or 3 applications per locality or for Panfield GWC, we're just not going to be able to get the improvements we need. I said with these pipeline studies, I mean, they're probably also pumping out like, dozens of projects just in this round alone. And the state rules are pretty restrictive on kind of combining this improvements into one application. I mean, if this goes forward and we can only submit 2 or 3, I mean, it might take a generation just to fund the pipeline studies from projects from this round. That just doesn't seem reasonable. So I think we definitely need to push back on this, get some input back to the state on this.
And I guess also the current process is, there's pipeline studies, and then there's also, the pipeline studies more so what VDOT sees as places that need improvements, and there's also what the localities believe that needs improvements. And you could get down to where you only have 2 applications. Is it, well, do we go with the pipeline study or the locality projects? Well, we're going to go with the locality projects in most cases, and that kind of defeats the purposes of the pipeline studies.
One other comment I forgot to mention. So we've heard that the issue that's driving a lot of this is a concern of the districts that they don't have enough staff. The central office would be having plenty of staff, but the districts don't have enough staff. They've asked that, the number of applications be restricted. We think a better solution than restricting the number of applications is to give more staff resources to the districts. And I also certainly, I think Fredericksburg district probably needs more L&D engineers, some more planning staff to help with this. So that's something we would definitely support.
So in terms of next steps, I know Paul, you had requested this item on the agenda.
So I guess the thought that I have, so the CTB is coming to Fredericksburg district, kind of doesn't happen very often. I think the last time, or some years ago, there was public comments at that meeting. We did send a bunch of us to that meeting to talk about this issue. And another possibility, which I think could be helpful, is if there was regional consensus. A letter to stay on this issue. Having it be ready for the July CTV. When this will be.
Well, obviously, we don't have a letter written right now, but if that, does anyone have thoughts on, discussing during public comment at CTV meeting or sending a letter either way?
When is the July CTV meeting?
18th and 19th. The workshop is on the 18th and the action meeting is on the 19th.
So we have another TAC meeting prior to that, right?
Don't have a meeting in July.
We don't have a meeting in July.
July and December, we do not have committees. So if you wanted to proceed with a letter that we have to have ready in July, we would need to, between this meeting and the policy committee meeting, draft a letter, circulate it to you all for comments, and then put it on the policy committee agenda. Alternatively, if you want to go and speak at this meeting, which I certainly think each jurisdiction should, we can then follow up with the letter after the meeting. If you want to go that route, but then the letter would only go out in August.
I think 1 and 2, both are good ideas. And if you guys are able to do that, Ian, to generate a letter and send it for us for comment, and then I guess we just informally send it on to the policy committee and let them be the endorsing authority there. Is that the suggestion? I think that's a good one. And then I'm happy to work with the rest of the group on participating in a meeting too. I think if you guys have kind of put the issues on the table.
I would suggest each jurisdiction sends at least one person to this CDB meeting. And I would ask, unfortunately, I can't be. I have put in for leave that week, going to be in Massachusetts, but I will ask 1 or 2 FAMPA staff to attend it, and I would ask each jurisdiction to, my suggestion is that each jurisdiction sends one person at least to that meeting. And then I think we can draft a letter. I think we all learned last time that the tone of the letter is important. The policy committee does not like sending nasty letters. And I actually think that there's a good logic behind that. If the state starts to hate us, we're not going to get anywhere. So I think we should have a carefully worded letter that is, hey, we don't like this, but not you're all terrible people. It just says, hey, we don't like this. You've asked for, comments, and here are our comments.
I think Paul made an excellent point about our success rate. I hope that could be included in the letter. Any data to suggest that this region has done its due diligence. I think it was a great process, and I think that was borne out in how many projects got funded. So any statistics, I agree with you, Ian. That would help keep the tone appropriate.
Well, I think that sets our path forward.
We'll send you all a draft letter, and because of FOIA, we're not supposed to get into a dialogue, but you are all not supposed to get into a dialogue with each other. That's not in a public meeting, but you can talk to FAMPO staff. Please do send your comments back to FAMPO staff. We'll panel beat the letter until it's, more or less what you all think is a good letter.
All right, on to our second to last item under action discussion, item D, election of officers. This is an action item.
Yes, so if you want me to comment, the 1st of July is the start of the new financial year, and our officers, our TAC officers have a term of office of 1 year. So in June each year, we elect our new chair and vice chair, etc., for the year. And then those come into effect on the 1st of July. So it practically means that the new chairperson would chair the meetings from August, because there's no committee in July. And we do this for all of our committees. So what you need to do today is to nominate a chairperson and also your first and second vice chairs. And if you remember the TAC rules and the policy committee rules, they follow the same pattern. It rotates between the 3 jurisdictions. So you can see there on the screen the way that the rotation is supposed to operate for the next year. So we're going into FY24 to pick these, pick the chair. Spotsylvania should pick the vice chair. And well, when I say pick, I mean nominate. And the Fredericksburg should nominate the second vice chair. That's the order that we are in now. So I suggest, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, whatever you are this week, we call for nominations and then we just make a decision on those.
Okay. How do we do this process? Just nominate our.
Ask each jurisdiction to nominate their preferred candidate, and then you can just vote them all in together, I guess.
Well, does the city have a preferred candidate for second vice chair?
Yeah, we'll nominate Jamie Jackson.
Spotsylvania first. Okay. Chair, I will nominate myself as well.
Great.
All right.
Hopefully next month, well, August, I guess, because we won't have a meeting, but. Do you need a motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Can we please have a motion to adopt those 3 as the chairs?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Motion carries. All right.
We normally ask the vice chair pose a motion of thanks to the outgoing chair. And because Jamie is on maternity leave, the vice chair is actually the acting chair. So it's a very amusing little situation that we have.
He can thank himself.
That's right.
However, we do have a certificate for Jamie, who's technically right now the chair of the TAC.
Yes.
So, Mr.
All right.
Vice Chair.
Well, it's a vote of thanks recognizing the outgoing chair, Jamie Jackson, who has served as the TAC chair since July of 2022.
And we would like to hand the certificate to Jamie at the first meeting of that she's back from maternity leave. We normally just hand it to the person and thank them and have a round of applause, but we'll defer that to August if that's okay with everybody.
Well, I will motion for approval of the recognition of Jamie Jackson. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Awesome. Carries.
So we'll put that item on the agenda. Becky does our agendas for the TAC, and Becky will just put it on the agenda for August, so we can just thank her in person.
Correspondence?
We have one item which we'd like to raise on Friday. Was it 3:41 p.m.? We got an email from VDOT saying, can we please give comment before Tuesday on a particular item? And I'm going to ask Connor if you can just bring up that map. So this is a thing called smoothing. And what I can tell you is that I don't know a lot about it. The Census Bureau determines the urban areas within our jurisdictions. And that line, the line hash in red is the current new 2020 FAMPO urban area. However, there is a second process which has happened before. It happened in 2010, where VDOT needs to smooth out the edges of the urban areas, and I'm going to ask them to tell us what the reason is for. And they've asked us to give comments. So the proposal from VDOT, and it's done, I believe, across the state, is to add in those areas shaded in yellow and orange to the red hash. And it's not got to do with funding. I, on Friday, asked a million questions I've never before, and answers are complicated. However, Stephen and others have been this, and it will just give us an now as to what this act. And if anybody wishes to comment, feel free to, but it does not affect funding, and we are not required to have a committee resolution from any of the Bambo committees to support or oppose this thing. It is, I guess, more for information, and if we see anything that's very wrong, we can make a comment about it.
Yes, sir.
Over to VDOT.
Yeah, the important thing here is that these are two totally separate things. Keep that in mind. The census data, the census blocks come back, they're basically based on the density of population, right? And they were redefined based on 2020 census versus where they were in 2010. Based on that, over the course of time, VDOT also develops a map that has urban areas. Our urban areas are based on a roadway network. So we have different ideas of what we want to consider urban. In the distant past, this was very important because wherever that line defined, if we were within it and there was a project, we had to use urban standards. If we were outside, we had to use rural standards. That line's blurred quite a bit now. We have a lot more flexibility with that, so it doesn't carry the weight it used to carry. But it used to be, if you had a project going from here to here and across the line, this would have curb and gutter and this would have shoulders.
It ripped up the sidewalk in the rural area.
Right. So anyhow, that's what this map is about, is what we want to define as our urbanized area. Again, doesn't play into, it could be a little frightening when you look at that map and you go, okay, the TMA area and the Fredericksburg urbanized area are now connected. What would be the ramifications of that? We're indeed the census, not that. It's just VDOT.
We light a candle and pray every night for that noise.
I didn't know where you from. Yeah, but anyway, yes, that's what this is about. So when we ask, actually, to be honest, we did not anticipate TMPD even requesting an approval. And I understand you're going, oh my gosh, what is this? Another, but it really was something that you should certainly be aware of. But I don't know that you probably, if anyone has any big comments, let's have them.
The question that was put to me certainly is, do we see any areas that should be included or shouldn't be included? And honestly, I guess that I would like to see more included, because there are some, you do get better service in the urban areas. So I would say I would be in favor of adding all of those. I don't know if there's one that we miss.
But one thing to point out is that we are also, though, constrained by those urban blocks.
Yeah.
So the only thing that we can do is include or exclude, as the case may be. We don't exclude any, but to include a greater number. So unless you could see the whole map with all those broken out, like the way we looked at it, some of them are tiny, some of them are huge, some of them are just totally illogical looking. And so the word smoothing is also a bit confusing, because that doesn't, the green outline doesn't look any smoother than the middle, right? But it's smoothing from the perspective of we're trying to include like type of areas, even areas that might be developed into the future. We're kind of trying to look ahead there a little bit too. But we don't have, again, it's a lot of guesswork, and the counties probably know more about if this were a county effort, they would probably look different as well. So
I guess I have one question. The transportation management area, is this the transportation management area, the TMA, or is that based off of strictly the US Census?
that's it.
Just the US Census, so this is not, got it.
Correct.
And would this have any impact on smart scale scoring, on anything like that in the future, or?
Only in the most indirect sense of, should we be compelled to use standards that cost more?
Oh, okay. Like this, so this wouldn't affect the A, B, C, or D areas of the state or anything like that?
Not at all. No, it's, the FAMPO region is going to continue to be category B, and the rest of the district is a D.
Stephen, it's a little hard for me to tell, but like, does the sprint area go out into King George, or at least touch King George and Caroline?
It does not.
I think it stops right at the county line, but you're
218.
right up at the very top there.
Yeah, there's a faint blue line. If Connor zooms in to the right side, Stafford and King George. There's a very faint blue line right along the creek. Yeah.
Just tap the green area so that the white goes away.
That's good. If you just want to move the screen down. Yeah, there you can see the blue line a little bit there. So it does touch King George a little bit, but it does not go into King George.
Does it touch Caroline?
I don't believe it did either. If Connor, you want to move?
Our boundary goes up to Caroline anyway.
It does right there.
It does touch right there, it looks like.
Could we include the rail station in that?
Which
think it
road
is.
station?
Bro. It's like just on the outside. I don't know if that will make a difference. Or...
Yeah, Connor, maybe we could send this out to the group.
Yeah.
Just if anyone has comments, please get back to Ian by the end of the day.
Yeah.
Today?
We have to, VDOT sent this at 3:41 on Friday, and they want our comments by Tuesday close of business, which is tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
But if you
I don't think.
if you require an extra day and the only way you can give us a good response is to get it to us on Wednesday, that will be fine. But again, be sure you're comparing this to the blocks. You know, we can only incorporate additional census blocks.
Half a block.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that may be the issue with Brook because
That it's on a-
of Brown Brook may be.
Yeah.
be
I mean,
under
you all
200.
built that station in the wrong place anyway. It should have been built up
Oh,
at the main.
Stafford built houses in the wrong place.
Should have been up at the main road, not.
Moving on to, unless there's any other questions, staff reports, item number 9.
Becky, do we have any staff reports? Okay.
All right, member reports, A and B, cost estimate changes and new projects.
Couple things from VDOT. As you mentioned, the CTV is coming to Fredericksburg in July. It's the 18th, 19th. The projects that we had inflationary estimate increases on, they were presented at the CTV meeting in May. CTV finalized that at their June meeting, but that is all available if you're interested in what those were for the Fredericksburg district. They were smart scale projects. Those inflationary estimate increases should be approved at the June meeting. They were in that scenario package with the smart scale round 5 dates. They're all in there listed if you're interested.
Okay, I was notified on Wednesday, with the debt ceiling bill being signed, that any COVID-19 money that was out there had to be obligated. The state only had one project that had money on it that was not obligated, and that was in Hampton Roads. So what we do is we go out there and we find a project that can get that money to be obligated. There was one, there was a couple we had, but one was, we decided on was, Market Street, which is already underway, which we could obligate right away. So we swapped the money dollar for dollar on the projects. It will not affect the project in any way, but it will probably, we'll probably get a tip block. Okay, so that would be the explanation for it, is that the state went through and wanted to make sure that we didn't lose any money. And sometimes we have to cross districts, and this is one of the times we cross districts. So just wanted to let everybody I have to notify everybody that that's what the state has done. So when that tip block comes out, we'll have it's a legit reason for moving some money around, but no project at all is affected. It was swapped dollar for dollar. Okay.
And
That's useful information. Thank you.
so there's no indication there'll be any effect to CMAC, STBG, or C.
No. If we would have, so what happens is, the state was notified that that little piece was in the bill about the COVID-19 money. Any COVID-19 money that was not obligated or had already been expended, the feds is going to pull it back. So the state went out there and to make sure that all of our COVID-19 money was spent. And when we found that one project they started going, uh-oh, we don't want to lose the money. So we started looking for projects and how to swap it around. So it's, the money is still there on the project, it's just a different color. That's all it is, okay?
COVID-19 market street.
All right, anybody else for member reports, anything else will be done, or, all right, anybody else? Well, that will be, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, I guess that is second. All right, all those in favor say aye. All right. Yeah, any against, motion carried.
Thank you, Vice Chairman, and, yeah.
To sign this now?
Yeah, sign it now.
I don't have a pretty signature.
Oh, yeah.